Hello everybody and welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So today, I'm finally getting around to doing my best shows of the year, and then I'm going to be moving on to doing some actual reviews. Don't worry, I'm almost done. This month's just been a little crazy. I've been just kind of exhausted, but I'm getting back in the groove, so let's go ahead and talk about my favorite TV shows of this year. Starting us off, we have Vox Machina Season 2. Now, this was a fantastic continuation of Amazon's adaptation of Critical Role's D&D campaign. Following the previous season, our triumphant misfits have their moment of triumph interrupted by 4 powerful dragons that decimate the kingdom, called the Koroma Conclave. Barely managing to escape with a small group of survivors, Vox Machina sets out on a quest to retrieve several divine weapons that will allow them to match the ferocity of the feared Koroma Conclave. I love that name. Now, I love the first season of Vox Machina, and I've held off on listening to the actual roleplay session so I can go into this kind of blind, and man, I was not disappointed. The show continues on into season 2 with a bang. The animation is pretty average most of the time, but during action scenes, like in the first episode, it can turn it from like a 7 to an 11 in an instant. The attack from the Koroma Conclave, particularly their leader, this massive red fire dragon, was breathtaking to behold. The characters are still enjoyable, and we get to dive into the backstory of the other characters in this season, which is good since the last season was very heavily focused on Percy and his family and, kingdom. So the jokes still make me laugh, which, all you can really ask for. I don't think it was the best show of the year, but there were a lot of good shows, and this sticks in my memory, and I've rewatched it several times, so I'll say definitely check it out if fantasy is your jam. And we move from one fantasy show to the next. So Owl House had its last episode this year, and man, what a ride. For those of you who don't know, The Owl House was a Disney animated series that popped up in the post-Gravity Falls animation boom alongside Amphibia, which I talked about last year in case you didn't see that. The story follows Luce, a human girl who stumbles through a door to the demon realm and decides to ditch summer camp to spend time learning magic under the wild witch Eda Clawthorn, all while the mysterious Emperor Bellows plots in the background. The show was well written, beautifully animated, and an exciting adventure. Unfortunately, despite critical praise and generally good reception from people I've talked to, but, my circle is limited, Disney seemed to do everything they could to absolutely sabotage this show, like stab it in the back. It had various issues throughout its run, though the most noticeable were poor access and turning the third season into 3-hour-long specials. The first issue, Access, was that despite the show being on Disney+, the newest episodes were only available to stream several months after the second season ended. This basically means when Disney claims the show didn't have good ratings, I get a little suspicious because most of the people who wanted to watch it skew younger and often without access to cable or that don't use it regularly. In addition, there were few announcements, and the final season, or at least the 3 specials, were released on YouTube for some reason, and were only added to Disney Plus after they had all been released, which happened gradually over several months. To me, this feels like they were trying to keep people from knowing what was happening or knowing what was going on. It was really chaotic, and it meant that trying to keep up to date on when new episodes were coming out was a nightmare. Like, I missed release dates, and I actually regularly keep up with that stuff. I can't imagine a kid who's just watching it casually. And it definitely hurt the numbers. Still, despite all of that, it is a really good show. The writers managed to take the limited time they were given for a third season and still crafted a near perfect ending. The characters were likable and energetic. Lucy herself is a bundle of chaotic energy. It's always a joy to watch. Amity is nice and fun. Willow and Gus are, well, they didn't get enough screen time near the end, but you know what? They still got some. I wish we got to see them all interacting in the human world more, but that's what happens when you cut the third season down. Chop chop. Oh, all the characters, just so much fun. And the show is not afraid to outright traumatize its characters out of nowhere. I really hope Hunter got some therapy during that epilogue time skip. He seems like he got some therapy. He needed it. If you haven't seen the show yet, then I would definitely recommend you give it a shot. At least wait for a good action scene too, because when the show really wants to show off, it can make magic look freaking awesome. Moving away from animation, we go to Loki Season 2. It is a pretty good conclusion to the series. At least, it better be a conclusion, because I don't see how you could do a Season 3. First, let's get this out of the way. Is it better than Loki Season 1? No. But that was one of my favorite shows back when Disney Plus was just WandaVision, this show, and Mandalorian Season 1, before it got bad. And I was really on board. I still think Loki Season 2 is an excellent TV series. Even if the first season was better, that first season had better pacing, and at least in my opinion had better writing. This season does, however, have an epic soundtrack that's really good, and that song that plays during the climax, holy shit, they did a great job with that. Unfortunately, the plot gets very messy due to the time hopping and universe unraveling, which you'd think it's a time travel show. No, time hopping within the place outside of time, and it's complicated. Basically, trying to follow what's going on sometimes can be a bit difficult. Still, I really liked the ending, and I'm glad they let the show, actually end rather than trying to drag it out into a third season, because we all saw how well that worked out for The Mandalorian. I'm not going to keep, stop bringing that up, Disney. Seriously, stop. Know when to stop. Please stop making live-action remakes, please. Anyway, I'm a little sad we'll never get to see Tom Hiddleston as Loki again, but having seen what happens over and over when a series refuses to let characters stay dead, I'm just going to call us a win, shuffle him off stage before Disney gets any ideas. We're moving back to animation because I can't stop talking about animation this year. Castlevania Nocturne was freaking awesome. I know some people thought the plot was a little rushed or were pissed about how they changed a character or two, but honestly, I don't really care. The original Castlevania's Netflix adaptation had strong writing, sure, and that was a strength. But Nocturne retains the gorgeous animation and action scenes, and I would argue it's still better written than most other shows. As for Annette, well, I haven't played a lot of Castlevania games, so I didn't even know the original version of this character. If you had told me she was an original character made for the show, I would not have batted an eye. So I kind of get wanting a character to be faithfully created and saying, why'd you even give them this name? But at the same time, I'm not a fan, and so I literally can't judge it by that metric. So for me, as someone who's only played Symphony of the Night one time, the show was a fresh injection of amazing action, breathtaking animation, and writing that was still good, even if it was lower quality than its predecessor. What it really comes down to is that I'm a very simple dragon who lost his shit when Alucard showed up in the darkest hour to rescue the heroes and set up Season 2. So in my opinion, this was freaking awesome. And now we get into my complicated pick. See, Netflix's live-action One Piece adaptation is a complicated issue to me, because I really like One Piece. I'm not like a super fan, but I have rewatched the show more than once, which is, considering the length of One Piece, impressive. I think this show, in particular, was easily one of the best shows of this year. I mean, they were reading from Oda's script, so that's a given, but I can't really get over how weird it is to see a live-action adaptation be so faithful to the original. It's a good thing. Let me be very clear. More things should adapt like this. But One Piece has always struck me as one of those things that's really difficult to adapt because the characters have like weird proportions and body types and devil fruit to attach any effects budget. And that's not even mentioning the crew will be adding a talking reindeer who can shift into various forms between human and animal, a cyborg with giant robot arms, and, if the show lasts long enough, a living skeleton swordsman who has like ice powers. Now, to give the team credit, this might be the most faithful adaptation of a crazy animated series I've ever seen. Zoro even uses a sword with his mouth, Luffy does the stretching things, the fish people had great effects. My main problem is that the East Blue is fairly tame when it comes to crazy effects stuff in One Piece. And they'd already had to be better than every prior anime adaptation just to do it justice. That's not a high bar, but I'm concerned that the show will become impractical as they get into later arcs, and eventually they'll just have to stop or make it get sloppy. Still, I shouldn't judge a season based on some nebulous future failing that, for all I know, will never come up. This season is a near perfect adaptation, and despite my own feelings that I think I prefer the anime version, this is still really good, and I just want to shout it out because, please, you don't have to fuck with the anime adaptations. You can just adapt them, and it works. Hey Hollywood, you see this? You see Dragon Ball Evolution? You do this, and you don't do that, or Death Note, or whatever the hell Netflix did with Fullmetal Alchemist. Good God, that was terrible. So yeah, Netflix, you're officially on my good list. Don't screw it up. So, moving on from there, we have one of the other things that I thought was great this year. And guess what? It's also Netflix. I don't know what it was with Netflix this year. They were just killing it. And the best thing they did, I'm not sure if most of you have heard of this, but I'm sorry. Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remake, was hands down the best thing that came out this year. This irreverent, crazy show by Ubisoft's animation team was just plain amazing. And if you have missed this, then you have to give it a shot. The show is essentially a crossover of all of Ubisoft's IP smashed into a hilarious sci-fi cyberpunk comedy action show. It's a lot of things. The main plot is essentially the main character gets betrayed and ends up working for a corporation's Suicide Squad ripoff. Alongside him are two characters from Beyond Good and Evil, don't really know them that well, and a member of the Assassin Brotherhood, who happens to be an anthropomorphic frog who spit bubbles to predict the future. Yeah, it's a little crazy. The show leans into the absurd and essentially throws all Ubisoft's toys in a big bin and says, shake it around and pour out. However, as the show continues, the comedy almost gives way to tragedy, and when the main characters start dying, it gets a little dark. And by the end, you realize that you're not gonna find a happy ending here for these characters. Despite this, it never loses its absurd edge and can even still be funny. So the whole thing is animated with beautiful visuals, has a cool comedy. It feels like the writers were basically just given a bunch of assets and the copyright material and just said, hey, do whatever you want as long as you make at least 10 Ubisoft references an hour, we're good. After watching this, I really wish Ubisoft would just stop making games and become an animation animation studio because they clearly have more passion for their work as the animators than the designers of the last like 4 Assassin's Creed games combined have. So just in case I was completely unclear, watch this show, you cowards. Anyway, moving on from there, that's basically it. Those are my favorite shows of the year. And with that, I wrap up the best of the year content. I'll probably put this all in a playlist so you can watch like best movies, books, shows, and games. And we're going to move on to what's coming up in 2024. I've been streaming Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Doing that Tuesday and Thursday, although I did miss this last Thursday. Sorry, I just wasn't feeling up to streaming. And after that, I'm probably going to be doing Blue Power World. In addition, Rachel Aaron finally released her 3rd book in the Fairy DFZ series by Silver Thread. I just finished it as of the time of this recording, and I cannot wait to talk about this. That's probably going to be the first review of 2024. Rachel Aaron is a very lesser known author, I find, and I love talking about books whenever I get a chance. So look forward to that pretty soon. Hopefully I can get that out sometime before next week starts, or at least at the beginning of next week. Anyhow, with that said and done, let's go on to the outro. So there will be a video YouTube recommends and also a playlist. I haven't yet decided if that's going to be a playlist of the stuff from this year, the other best of the year reviews. We'll see. And at the bottom, there's a subscribe award. Go to my channel, click on it, and subscribe. It'll be awesome. There'll be a lot more stuff coming out this year. And if you like just dragons or craziness or just enjoy listening to my thoughts because these are just my opinions, then yeah, go ahead and subscribe. See you guys next time. Bye.